Hello, everyone. My name is Jace Marino, and I lead Microsoft Teams platform for Microsoft's customer success organization. And over the past 2 years leading this business, it's been a lot of fun, and we've seen some incredible solutions delivered by many organizations around the globe to some fairly common scenarios that we see across all industries, all geographies, and organizations of all shapes and sizes. I want to share an evolution of one of these journeys here with you that starts really simple and gets incredibly intricate and awesome. And it's really about harnessing knowledge management all the way to moving to self-service and support models. And with that, I want to share some of the common things that I've heard from organizations we've been talking to over the last 2 years. And these first two quotes that I'm going to share with you come up all the time. But we hear from organizations, and frankly, we struggle with this a little bit inside of Microsoft, is we've got data and information everywhere. It's hard to keep up. And while technology today is incredible, it feels like it's maybe a little more difficult to get valuable work done today because you have apps and information and systems all over the place that you have to leverage just to get your job done. And then, not to mention all of the pings and notifications and everything that might take you off course. And then on that same note, we hear from a lot of organizations that their support desks are swamped, meaning they don't have any time. All they're doing right now is putting band-aids on issues so they can get them temporarily fixed, but they're not actually evolving the corporate or the organizational model in order to solve the challenge in the first place and evolve how people are working. And the reason I share this is because we're seeing a lot of organizations tackle this inside of Microsoft Teams and using it as an opportunity to meet their people where they already are. And so before I go into these scenarios and the examples, I want to show you exactly what that means. Now, Microsoft Teams is a platform. And by that, we mean it's an opportunity to be the front door for your organization or the single pane of glass, if you will. So users have all of their apps and people and teams and information sitting in one place to alleviate that tool sprawl and that exhaustion that comes from trying to just find all of the information and content and services and apps just to get your work done. So really briefly, and we're going to come back to this slide multiple times as we go through here, but what's possible? So when you open Teams on day one, you should have over 600 applications now available to you built by Microsoft as well as built by third-party providers, so some of our partners, inside of the Teams store on day one. Now, you may not have all these applications available because we do give tenant admins, or the people who are responsible in your organization for rolling out Microsoft Teams, the ability to toggle these applications on or off. But these should be available, at least in some part, to you on day one. So these are ready to use applications. So I'd highly recommend checking out and seeing if some of the applications you already use every day outside of Teams are available inside of Teams. And you'll see why that's valuable here as we go through the presentation. And then where this gets really fun is with custom applications, and the possibilities here are limitless. But this is where organizations will either create better connections between their existing applications to create new workflows, or to bring your existing homegrown or your organizational built solutions for line of businesses into the Teams experience. And this can happen in a variety of ways, but two of the more common that we see in the easier places to get started are with our low code, no code solutions, such as Power Platform or app templates. And again, we'll go into these in a bit. And then, of course, we'll see some incredible solutions that are built from scratch, where we build bots, where we leverage things like Office Graph. I'll explain all of these as we go through. But the ultimate thing that I'm hoping you take away from this is that Teams is the front door to your organization. And I'm going to steal this line because our engineering organization uses it all the time. But think of Microsoft Teams as a scaffolding for a building, something that can hold all of your key applications and services in place to make it easy for users to not only collaborate, but start to really work asynchronously. All right, let's go ahead and kickstart this journey that I mentioned earlier in the video here. And we're going to go from examples of organizations who simply wanted to make it easier to access the knowledge and information in their organization and the organization of it itself, all the way to organizations who said, we don't want a support model anymore. We want to go to a proactive service model that reaches out to users. So this is an incredible journey that we're going to take with 4 different organizations and how they've delivered this. Now, starting with the first organization, what I want you to imagine is a workplace where you have few people who are responsible for helping many. I think we all struggle with this. And I want you to not just think about a support desk, while it is also irrelevant here. I want you to think about subject matter experts, whether they're official or unofficial. You can also, of course, think of these full service support desks. Think about people who are often getting pinged and messaged for the information that they share, or that tribal knowledge, if you will, and how you can bring that and extrapolate it across your organization. Now, when I show you this example, what we're going to be covering here very simply is just a Microsoft application. Everything you're going to see in the next example includes, honestly, just Microsoft Teams and a SharePoint intranet site. So let's talk about the customer here, Ernst& Young. Ernst & Young rolled out Teams not too long ago, and what I thought was very impressive with them, as simple as this may sound to some folks, is Ernst & Young had built this amazing intranet portal called EY Info. Okay? And what they did is they said, we want to bring that experience into Microsoft Teams. So they turned that experience into an app, which you can do in less than 20 minutes with no coding required. I've done this multiple times. It's very easy, and we'll share a link for you to be able to do this yourself. And they said, let's pin this EY Info app for users over there on the left-hand rail. So the first time that they jump into Teams, it's sitting right there, it's easy to find. And even better is we're gonna have 4 key things for them to leverage here in order to learn how to use Teams in Teams. The first is gonna be a bot that allows them to ask questions for any questions that they have around Microsoft Teams experience. They'll have live training, interactive Teams learning, and then Microsoft Learning videos, so videos that Microsoft actually put out. And you can see Ernst & Young did this beautiful job of just condensing these resources that users had to alleviate the amount of questions they were going to get as they rolled out the software, and also alleviate the amount of in-person training sessions that they were going to have to hold. So really incredible. Ernst & Young also told us that they saw a 40% increase in Teams adoption just by doing this. Okay, so this is a great and easy way to get started with some of the resources that you've already built within your organization. Okay, so scenario 1 was an easy one, right? Very easy to make an impact there. Let's get to scenario 2 now. And I want you to imagine a workplace now where it's difficult to find the right information at the right time. I know that we all struggle with this, and that varies by organization. And frankly, I think we have it easy at Microsoft because we really only use our own tools. I imagine what a lot of you go through out there is that you're using Microsoft tools, you're using our competitors' tools, you're using the tools that you've built internally. And again, it seems harder than ever to find the right information at the right time and get valuable work done today. So I want to show you how Dentsu Aegis Network tackled this. And before we get into the example, what they leveraged is essentially the modern version, or excuse me, it was the previous version of a Teams app template, what we now call today FAQ Plus here, which is a frequently asked question bot. And I'm gonna show you exactly how they built this. What I wanna do though is give you a little bit of background, and then we're gonna show you the video, and then we're gonna go behind the scenes and I'll show you exactly how they delivered this. But very simply, Dentsu has a 3-person IT collaboration team who's responsible for 60,000 people around the globe learning how to use any new piece of technology that Dentsu invests in. And their CIO, Dom, who you're going to hear from, thought that we can do the Teams rollout better. Let's see if we can actually drive organic adoption and not do what we normally do, which is hold a bunch of in-person training events all over the globe, which costs us a bunch of time and money and resources. So here's the approach that they took. And while not everybody is going to be able to achieve this, there is a ton that we can learn from their very simple approach here and the evolution, frankly, of exactly what Ernst & Young built. So go ahead and cut to this video and then we'll come back and go behind the scenes.
We're one of the largest media agencies globally.
60,000 people in 170 countries. We had to think really carefully about how we rolled out Teams. We didn't have a lot of resource to drive this rollout. We only had a team of 3 people.
By leveraging the third-party tools and the extensibility of Teams, we were able to build a chatbot to help people find answers. How do I do this? Where do I find that?
We didn't have to have a big training team.
And we've only sent 1 communications to announce the move from Skype to Teams. One of the most interesting things that we saw was the viral adoption. People saying, have you seen this product? It works really well.
We started with a pilot of 5,000 users. We're now at 30,000 users. Teams provides many different business benefits. It has rejuvenated other existing platforms and technology investments we had. Teams becomes your front door for everything you do. Changes the game on many levels.
Okay, so great video and amazing outcome that you saw there. Again, 1 communication, and they got 30,000 people over the course of 4 months between November 2018 and March 2019 using Microsoft Teams. Now, again, I'm not going to promise you that's possible in every organization, but there's a lot to be learned from what Dentsu did. And again, a great evolution of a SharePoint site, just like Ernst& Young had built EY Info. If you picked it up in the Dentsu video, their SharePoint site was called WorkSmart. Now let's go behind the scenes and see how they delivered this. And what I want to show you first is Dentsu support v1.0. Okay, so ignore Microsoft technology for a second. And the way that IT collaboration team used to run is when a new user had a question for a piece of technology that they had access to and how to use it or any issues that they had with it, is they'd reach out to one of the 3 IT collaboration leads and they'd pull in information from their brain, from the internet, from their peers, or from any other internal resources or knowledge bases and get that person an answer. Now, did it work? Yes. Was it the most efficient way to do this? Probably not. So that takes us into version 2.0. Now again, ignore Microsoft technologies here. A new user's been assigned a piece of technology, and the IT collaboration team said, look, I think we can do this a little bit better. What if we took all of that information that we've been using to answer questions and we put it into a centralized resource or knowledge base, an intranet site in this case, so a SharePoint intranet page, and they called it WorkSmart. And now what happens is when users reach out to the IT collaboration leads, of course they can still answer the question, but they can also point users and encourage them to leverage what they've built on the WorkSmart page. So pretty successful, but Dentsu said, again, when we roll out Microsoft Teams, can we take this one step further? So now that takes us to support 3.0 here and what they talked about in the video when Dom and his team were so excited about. Is they came to us over here at Microsoft and they said, look, we've already centralized this knowledge base and this information, but we want to have a new modern way for users to learn how to use Microsoft Teams. We think we can do this organically. We see a lot of potential in this platform. And so as you heard in the video, what the IT collaboration team did is this time they were proactive. And they reached out to new users and said, you now have access to Microsoft Teams and your single point of contact, if you have any questions, is the WorkSmart Teams bot. So just like EY Info that they had pinned on the left-hand rail, Dentsu also named the bot the same as their intranet page. And they also pinned the WorkSmart bot on the left-hand rail for users. Now, what's really amazing is this was built on what was at the time our Azure Q&A maker. Today, you can do this with a Teams application template. And these templates allow you to customize these bots, and all you need to do is pick the knowledge base or the resources that you're pulling from to answer questions. So when the new Teams user asks a question to the WorkSmart bot, what the WorkSmart bot is doing is just pulling in information from the existing intranet page to answer that question for the user. Now, setting this up is incredibly easy. I will be very honest with you. I can set up a bot with no coding experience, as can many of your users. To create an incredible, valuable bot, I'd get a developer on board personally for a couple months, which is how long it took Dentsu, and spend some time really building machine learning into this. So the bot evolves on its own, so it has natural language. You can even leverage services like cognitive services in our cloud in order to do some incredible things. But I give yourself a couple months to really put some work into this because building a bot is easy. Building a valuable bot takes some effort, but the rewards are incredible. And you heard it from Dentsu themselves. And then finally, what Dentsu wanted to do the last time we spoke to them is, again, they said, okay, we've got this centralized knowledge resource base. We now have reached out to users and they're leveraging the WorkSmart bot in order to learn how to use Teams in Teams with the existing investments we've made. But what happens if the user has an issue that the WorkSmart bot can't answer? Now they've integrated ServiceNow, where automatically the Teams bot will notify ServiceNow and raise a ticket for the IT collaboration team. So pretty incredible. Just for an FYI, if you use our application templates, while they don't by default connect into ServiceNow, they are open source, so you can do this. And you can also by default have it just ping you. So if you didn't have ServiceNow, it could ping the IT collaboration lead and let you know that the user didn't get a question answered. And users can also submit feedback to the bot, which goes directly to the owners of the bot themselves. So again, amazing evolution of this model that again started out the same way that Ernst & Young did with a SharePoint site and now moved over to this amazing Teams bot that led to organic Teams adoption within Dentsu. Okay, so that takes us on to scenario or phase number 3. And I want you in this case to imagine a workplace where you have a bunch of separate apps for separate use cases. So let me give you a little background here. Here's what usually happens. In the case of Dentsu, is you build something incredible like the WorkSmart bot, and then other parts of your organization hear about your success and they want to deliver the same thing. And that's amazing. But we've seen a lot of organizations then who get to a point where they've got 10 different bots or applications to solve 10 different use cases. And while we love working with organizations to do that, at what point do you start to compound the first challenge that you were trying to solve, which was bringing together information and making it easy to get the right information at the right time? So we have an incredible example from Vale South America and how they solved this with one bot to rule them all. So what you're going to see here is they used a full-time developer and they built this solution from scratch, leveraging one of our Azure services called Dispatch. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. But let's go through their scenario. So Valley got to a point where they created their first bot, and then they ended up having multiple bots within their organization. And here's how this started. Okay, IT support bot, same exact scenario that you just saw with Dentsu. Valley built something very, very similar within their organization. And again, they saw success with this, and then other groups wanted to get on board, HR, procurement, and a bunch of other support teams. And before you know it, Valley was faced with 8 different bots for 8 separate use cases. And so they came to us at Microsoft and said, hey, how do we start to bring this together? And they built a personal assistant bot leveraging our Azure Dispatch service. And this personal assistant was called Mina. And so Mina became the single bot to rule them all, if you will, for my Lord of the Rings fans out there. And the way this worked is when the user was connecting with Mina, so Mina would be pinned on the left-hand rail for users, and everybody in Valley was told that you only need to connect with Mina now. So you start chatting with Mina and you ask Mina a question, let's say about your payroll or about vacation and time off. Mina automatically knows that this is an HR related question because of the services that were built into Mina. And what Mina will do is it will pull in the HR support bot into the conversation. Now for the user, they don't see anything. This is all happening behind the scenes. But for Mina, it's leveraging, the dispatch service is leveraging these sister bots in order to make sure that the user, again, is getting answers to their questions and the right information at the right time. It's an incredibly valuable way to bring this all together. Another option is rather than bringing a bunch of different applications and bots together, what you could do is you can just expand the knowledge bases of the original bot. So if you remember for Dentsu, is they were using the SharePoint intranet site in order to connect and get answers to the questions and feed them into the bot. What you could do is add additional resources and knowledge bases to the existing bot service itself. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can solve this, but we wanted to give you a couple examples of how other organizations have done this. All right, and then finally, one of my favorite examples I've ever seen in Microsoft Teams of something incredible built. And I want you to imagine a workplace where support comes to you. No more reacting to the users. Now we're going to proactively take a support desk and turn it into a service desk. And this is exactly what the University of New South Wales did. And again, this is a solution built from scratch with full-time developers here, leveraging a bunch of different services that we'll touch on. But Dr. David Kellerman, who's a senior lecturer of mechanical engineering at UNSW in Sydney, Australia, was faced with a challenge. And his challenge was that he's got 1,000 students plus who come into his course every single year, and he wants to give them a personal experience. But with that many students, it's very hard to connect with all of them one-on-one. It's even hard for all of their TAs, teaching assistants, to connect with them one-on-one. And so what Dr. Kellerman did is he actually started just like Dentsu, just like Ernst & Young, and he said, I've got all of this information. I've got answers and resources for my exams, for my projects, for my assignments, and for my labs, and I want to centralize them. So that was step one. And now that he's got all this coursework as a knowledge base, he said, I want to take this same bot service that Dentsu used, and I want to connect that into a bot service, which he called QBot. And I want my mechanical engineering students, rather than reaching out to me, where I'm a bottleneck, and I'm not going to be able to answer all of their questions in a timely fashion, I want them to be able to reach out to QBot to get answers to their questions for their exams, projects, assignments, and labs as they go through my course. So again, phase one, you've already seen this. But just to show you, this isn't just an educational example or just an example for an organization like Dentsu. This is relevant for any type of support sort of service or group of folks. All right, now V2. So this is where this gets really exciting, is we already got centralized knowledge base. We've already got the bot connecting into its knowledge base and working with the users. Now though, Dr. Kellerman said, we can take this one step further, and he started looking into our Azure cloud services. And looking through that and finding out about the Office graph, he said, what I can actually do now is similar to Dentsu, if you remember, where it would reach out to the collaboration team or it would create a ServiceNow ticket. He said, what if the student asked the bot a question, and if it couldn't get them the right answer, it would route them to the correct teaching assistant on my staff based on their area of expertise. And so leveraging Office Graph APIs, which really just connect into your organizational hierarchy or your organizational structure and identities within your organization. Let's imagine that, say, these two teaching assistants are experts in a very particular part of Dr. Kellerman's course. So student asks the Teams bot a question, QBot, and QBot can't answer the question, but it knows, given the context of the conversation, that there's two teaching assistants who are experts in this particular subject, and it connects the student directly with those teaching assistants. So pretty incredible way to leverage those Office Graph APIs that we have available. Now, going into phase 3 here, if you think about everything that Dr. Kellerman's done, is all of this right here is data. Right? And he's been amalgamating this over the course of a few semesters, and he started feeding this data into one of our machine learning services and cognitive services with Azure. Okay, again, one of our clouds. And what he started to do is he goes, I think I can start to predict things now that I have all this data. And after running this for a couple semesters, Dr. Kellerman got to a point where he could predict with 80% accuracy within 2 weeks of his course starting whether or not a student was going to fail. And if that student was going to fail, he would connect them with the right teaching assistant in order to get them to the right support wherever they needed it in order to pass his class. So pretty incredible. And then he took it one step further. Is again, you've got this data, he's connecting into the cognitive services model, and using this data and information and the personal student's experience over that course, so their results on their exams and their projects and their assignments and their labs, he now can give students a personalized study guide for their final exam that he pins in Teams based on the information that he's collected from that student and previous semesters. So pretty incredible what he turned this service into. Now, interestingly enough, after Dr. Kellerman did this, you can imagine incredibly successful other organizations and other programs within University of New South Wales started hearing about what he's doing and wanted to start delivering this. And so from a different angle, they're now starting to do what Vale did, which is how do you start to bring together all of these services? And I'd imagine at some point UNSW might consider creating one single bot for all of their students, regardless of whatever course or program they're in, to have the same experience with QBot. Okay, so summarizing the journey we just took. V1 or phase 1 here was pin the internet. Take your internet site, bring it into Teams, pin it on the left-hand rail, leverage the resources that you've already created because they're probably fantastic. That right there is a direct link to pinning your SharePoint site, that AKA link where we give you instructions on how to do it. Phase 2, connect into your existing knowledge base or resources with a Q&A bot. Now I just want to clarify, that doesn't need to be a SharePoint site. That can be a Word document. It can be an Excel file. Wherever you keep that information, leverage the Teams app templates that we have or the Power Virtual Agents as part of Power Platform, where we already have these templates in place. You just need to point them to the right knowledge base, and then they're all open source. So you can also update, customize, edit these applications as you see fit. Then version 3 here is the personal assistant. How do you start to bring together either multiple bots, or how do you start to expand the service of an individual bot by connecting it into new knowledge bases? And again, the dispatch framework is one that you can leverage right here if you want to bring multiple bots together. If you don't want to bring multiple bots together, you can really go back to these two and again, expand the resources or the knowledge bases that they're connecting into. And then finally, V4 is what Dr. Kellerman delivered here as the coach. So he has made his code publicly available, so you don't even need to do the hard work right there if you really want to get to become a proactive service desk rather than a reactive support desk. So I hope this was helpful. We're going to do many more of these, but again, we wanted to give you these solution evolutions so you can see that it's frankly really easy to get started, and it's definitely going to take some effort to get over here, but the journey across the middle and your peers who have done it is just astounding. So we hope you enjoy. Please give us your feedback and let us know if you want us to keep doing similar videos like this. Thank you so much.